There's something eerie about Scorpios. You can't quite explain it, but you feel it. Maybe it's the silence that wraps around them like a shadow cloak. Maybe it's the way their eyes scan the room like they already know who's lying. Maybe it's the way they disappear for months and come back wiser, sharper, more unshakable than ever. Or maybe it's something far deeper. Because here's what almost nobody dares to say out loud. Scorpio is not just another zodiac sign. Scorpio is a spiritual assignment. When God created the zodiac, he gave each sign a unique mission, but with Scorpio, he gave more. He gave intensity, he gave power. He gave pain, and then he gave transformation. You see, Scorpios don't live on the surface of life. They were born to drown in the deep, to wrestle with the unseen, and to emerge with sacred truths no one else could survive uncovering. Where others seek comfort, Scorpio seeks clarity. Where others escape, Scorpio endures. Where others crumble, Scorpio alchemizes. And for that reason, God gifted them with 7 spiritual abilities that no other sign carries in such concentrated form. These are not talents, not personality traits, not fun facts from a horoscope app. These are divine weapons, gifts wrapped in shadow, powers forged through fire. Not everyone can handle these gifts. Many Scorpios don't even recognize they have them until life forces them into the darkness and they realize they were born with night vision. But here's the real question if you are a Scorpio. Which of these 7 sacred gifts have you already awakened? And if you're not a Scorpio, have you ever seen one in their true power? Because once you do, it's impossible to forget. In this video, we're going to uncover each of the 7 sacred gifts God only entrusted to Scorpio. We're going to go deep through the mythology, the psychology, and the soul-level secrets that make Scorpio not only powerful, but unshakable, unforgettable, and undeniably divine. And by the end of this journey, you won't just know more about Scorpio, you'll see them differently. You may even begin to see your own darkness as a source of light. So, are you ready to enter the temple of Scorpio? Let's begin. Gift 1: the power of inner resurrection. There's a reason why Scorpio is symbolized by the phoenix in ancient esoteric traditions, not just the scorpion or the eagle. The phoenix is not born, it burns, it crumbles into ash. And then it rises, again and again, more radiant, more powerful, and more purified. This is the first and perhaps most feared gift God gave to Scorpio, the power of inner resurrection. Scorpio is not afraid to die, not physically, but spiritually. While most people spend their lives avoiding endings, Scorpio walks into them willingly. They understand something sacred that most forget. You can't become who you're meant to be if you cling to who you were. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Camille, a Scorpio born under a November sky. In her early 20s, she had it all. A promising career, a relationship that looked perfect on the outside, and friends who envied her confidence. But beneath that mask, she was being emotionally drained every single day. She was shrinking to make others feel bigger. She was smiling through betrayal, and when the cracks finally split wide open, everything collapsed. She lost her job, her partner ghosted her, her so-called friends disappeared. But here's where most people would break. Camille broke open. She moved into silence, she cut off the noise. And in that dark winter, when everyone thought she was done, she wasn't dying, she was being reborn. 6 months later, she came back, not with vengeance, but with vision. She had learned graphic design from scratch, built a digital business, and started coaching other women through trauma. Not once did she tell the world what happened, but anyone who met her could feel it. This woman had walked through fire and brought back light. That's Scorpio. They don't need applause, they don't need pity. They need the ashes because that's where they become divine. This gift is terrifying to those who fear change, but to Scorpio, it's the only way to live. They have been sent here to die many times within a single lifetime. Die to false love, die to fake friendships, die to parts of themselves that no longer serve. And each time they rise not with bitterness but with deeper purpose. It's why Scorpios are often misunderstood. People say they're cold, distant, too intense. What they don't understand is this: when you've rebuilt your soul from nothing, you don't tolerate anything that isn't real. Scorpios have a radar for authenticity because they've bled for theirs. They can sit with someone going through hell and not flinch. They can hear a lie without reacting because they've already seen the truth. This gift is sacred. It's not always gentle. It demands solitude, grief, and silence. But it leads to transformation that most people never reach in a lifetime. If you're a Scorpio, ask yourself, what have I already survived that should have broken me? And what was born in me when I thought everything had died? You may not realize it, but you've already risen many times, each time stronger, each time wiser, each time closer to who you were truly meant to be. Life lesson. When the world tells you that you've lost everything, Scorpio, smile silently because only you know what looks like an ending is simply your soul preparing for its next resurrection. Gift 2, the soul level intuition. Have you ever met someone who looks at you, says nothing, and yet you feel completely exposed? That's Scorpio. They don't need facts, they don't need explanations. Because God gave them something far more powerful than logic. The gift of soul-level intuition. This is not a gut feeling or a lucky guess. It's a spiritual technology embedded deep into their nervous system. It allows them to see behind words, feel energy shifts, and read the room like an ancient text only they can decipher. To most people, intuition comes and goes. But with Scorpio, it's always on. Let me tell you about Marcus, a Scorpio therapist from Detroit. He rarely spoke in group settings, but people gravitated toward him. During one session, a client sat in silence for 30 minutes, insisting everything was fine. But Marcus simply looked at him and said, "You haven't cried in 14 years and your chest carries it like concrete. Who told you that silence was strength?" The client broke down instantly. Marcus didn't use a script. He didn't use psychology tricks. He felt the vibration underneath the silence. He touched the soul behind the performance. That's what makes Scorpio both deeply healing and utterly terrifying. You can't fake it with them. And that's why people both crave and fear their presence. Most people swim in shallow water. Scorpio, they live in the depths. And when they meet you, they dive down to your core without permission, without a sound. It's why Scorpios are often the first to sense betrayal. They know before they know. They feel lies before they're spoken. And it's not paranoia, it's perception on a spiritual level. When a Scorpio says something feels off, trust them. Even if nothing visible has happened yet, they are picking up on the energetic blueprint of the truth. They are reading what your spirit is screaming even when your words whisper the opposite. But here's the twist. This gift often feels like a burden in the beginning. Scorpios struggle to unknow things. They can't ignore what they feel, even if it hurts. They walk into rooms and feel emotions that don't belong to them. They hear subtext in conversations that others completely miss. And because of that, they often isolate, not because they don't love people, but because they're overwhelmed by everything that's unspoken. This is why Scorpio needs time alone to clear their own field, to separate what belongs to them and what belongs to the world. But once they learn how to use this gift with mastery, something incredible happens. They become spiritual lie detectors, emotional healers, silent protectors, and often the only people in the room who can name the truth no one dares to admit. God didn't give Scorpio this gift to make them suspicious. He gave it to help them become guardians of truth, He gave it to anchor the world in authenticity when everyone else is wearing a mask. So if you're a Scorpio and you've always felt too sensitive, too intense, or too tuned in, you're not broken. You're gifted. The world will try to convince you that your knowing is just imagination. Don't let it, because the moment you trust your inner compass more than external noise, you unlock one of the greatest superpowers a soul can carry in this lifetime. Life lesson, Scorpio, your intuition is not a whisper. It's the voice of your soul remembering what the mind forgot. Trust it, it has never been wrong, and it never will be. Gift 3, psychic magnetism. Some people walk into a room and blend in. Some people walk in and command attention. But a Scorpio walks in and shifts the entire atmosphere without saying a single word. That's the power of psychic magnetism, a sacred gift God gave to Scorpio and Scorpio alone. It's not charm, it's not beauty, it's not charisma. In fact, some Scorpios don't even try to be noticed. They avoid the spotlight altogether. And yet, people feel them. They don't walk, they vibrate. Their presence carries a frequency that stirs souls, awakens old feelings, and disrupts illusions, whether they mean to or not. Let me paint you a scene. At a crowded art show in New York, a woman named Eliza stood near the back, wearing simple black and barely speaking. Yet throughout the night, people kept glancing at her. Some avoided eye contact entirely. Others drifted toward her without realizing why. When a guest finally spoke to her, he said, "I don't know why, but you feel like a storm that's about to happen." That's psychic magnetism. It's the ability to transmit energy beyond the 5 senses, to pull people in through the aura alone, to create a gravitational field that draws curiosity, fear, lust, or reverence. God gave this to Scorpio not as a toy, but as a test. Because this gift can do 2 things, heal or destroy. It can awaken people's deeper truth or expose their hidden fears. It can attract lovers, friends, followers, but also enemies, imitators, and those who wish they could steal the power without earning it. Scorpio's energy is like a sacred flame. Those who come close are either illuminated or burned. And the Scorpio must learn to guard that flame, not dim it. That's why many Scorpios struggle in early life. They're told, "You're too much. You make people uncomfortable. Why do you feel so intense even when you're quiet?" What they don't realize is, they're feeling the field Scorpio carries, and that field is not light, it's truth, and most people aren't ready for it. This magnetism is ancient. It comes from Scorpio's rulership by Pluto, the planet of death, power, and transformation. It gives them access to emotional codes most people never tap into. That's why people project onto Scorpio what they fear in themselves. Why they fall in love without understanding why. Why they feel seen in a way that makes them naked yet alive. Scorpio doesn't seduce, they summon. Their presence speaks. Come closer if you dare. But know this, once you meet me, you won't live the same. And they mean it. That's why ex-lovers obsess, why strangers confess their secrets, why haters can't stop watching. Scorpio doesn't manipulate, they don't need to. Their magnetism speaks louder than words, and it always has. But here's the lesson, Scorpio must learn not to misuse this gift. This magnetism is a mirror. It reflects what others carry in their soul. And it must be wielded with sacred care, because what you awaken in others, you're responsible for guiding wisely. So if you're a Scorpio and people react to you strongly, whether with passion or fear, don't shrink, don't hide, just own it. And protect it, because your presence alone is a spiritual event. Life lesson, you don't need to raise your voice to make a statement, Scorpio. You are the statement. Your aura says what your mouth never has to. Use it wisely. Because when God gave you this magnetism, He also gave you the power to change the room or burn it down. Gift 4, the endurance of the spiritual warrior. There are wounds you never see, battles no one applauds, and victories that happen in silence. Scorpio doesn't just fight physical wars. They are spiritual warriors, assigned to fight invisible battles most wouldn't survive. And for that reason, God gave them a gift few would envy: the endurance of the spiritual warrior. This is not the kind of endurance that shows up in marathons or military drills. This is the kind that allows a person to sit inside pain so long and so deeply that eventually the pain starts to speak, and Scorpio listens. Most people avoid emotional pain at all costs. They numb, they run, they distract, they deny. But Scorpio goes into the fire with eyes open and jaw clenched. It's not because they're fearless, it's because they understand. The only way out is through. Let me tell you about Donovan, a Scorpio who grew up in a home where rage was the family language. His father drank, his mother disappeared emotionally, and by 15, Donovan had learned to never cry. To survive, he became silent, calculating, watchful. He carried the weight of everyone else's dysfunction, but said nothing. Years later, while others around him crumbled during crisis, Donovan remained steady. When his partner was diagnosed with cancer, he didn't fall apart, he became the rock. When his business collapsed, he didn't panic, he rebuilt from scratch. And when people asked him how he stayed calm, he said, "I've been living inside storms since childhood. I just stopped being afraid of the lightning." That's Scorpio. Their soul is forged in hardship. They don't get easy lives. They get lives that shape them into something unbreakable. This gift is misunderstood, even by Scorpio themselves. Many wonder, why do I keep going through so much? Why does life keep testing me like this? But what they don't realize is, every test is training, every loss is a lesson. Every betrayal is spiritual boot camp, and every scar is proof you've endured what would destroy others. Scorpios are the ones people turn to when everything falls apart. Why? Because others know, even unconsciously, that Scorpio has already walked that fire and returned with the blueprint for survival. But here's the hidden part: even warriors bleed, even spiritual soldiers break. And Scorpio must learn it's okay to rest. It's okay to soften. It's okay to be held. You are not only here to endure, you are here to transform. And transformation doesn't mean pretending you're fine. It means honoring your pain and letting it become your teacher, not your jailer. So if you're a Scorpio who's walked through storms in silence, who's carried more than you've ever said, and who's rebuilt yourself from rubble, you are not cursed. You are chosen. Your path is not punishment, it is sacred preparation. Life lesson: Scorpio, you don't wear your strength on your sleeve. You carry it in your soul. Your endurance is not just survival, it's initiation. God gave you this weight because He knew only you could carry it and turn it into wisdom. Gift 5, the transformational touch. Some people enter your life and leave you the same, but a Scorpio, they leave fingerprints on your soul. That's not poetry, that's spiritual reality. Because one of the most mysterious gifts God gave Scorpio is this: the power to transform whatever and whomever they touch. Not through force, not through control, but through presence. Through intensity, through the sacred pressure of truth. This is what I call the transformational touch. To understand this gift, you have to know one thing about Scorpio: they don't do surface. They don't engage in half-alive conversations, lukewarm friendships, or emotionally shallow connections. When a Scorpio enters your life, you feel it in your nervous system. They see past your performance, they peel off your masks. They make you confront your shadows, sometimes without saying a single word. Let me share a story. A man named Elijah once said he met a Scorpio woman who changed his entire life, and yet they only spoke for 2 hours. She didn't give him advice, she didn't tell him what to do, but the way she looked at him, as if she could see both his deepest fear and his highest potential, shook him to his core. He said, "I walked into that conversation thinking I was confident. I left knowing I'd been hiding from myself for years." That's Scorpio. They don't always talk about healing. They are the healing, but it doesn't always feel comfortable. Because true transformation never does. God entrusted Scorpio with this gift because they themselves have undergone deep inner metamorphosis. They know what it means to shed skin that no longer fits, to mourn an old identity, to be cracked open by betrayal or grief and emerge with new spiritual eyes. That's why they have zero tolerance for fake growth. They're not here to sugarcoat, they're here to trigger transformation. This gift can make them appear intense. Too much. But in truth, they're exactly what the world needs, especially in times like these. When someone is lost, a Scorpio can guide them, not with hand-holding, but with brutal honesty. When someone is stuck, Scorpio doesn't console, they challenge. When someone's pretending, Scorpio doesn't play along, they expose. And yes, it can be uncomfortable, but it's sacred. Because what Scorpio awakens in you is what your soul has been dying to become. The danger, of course, is that some will resent them for this, because not everyone wants to change. Not everyone chooses to confront their truth. And that's why Scorpio must learn this lesson. Your gift is not for everyone. Your medicine is strong, some people will spit it out, but those who are ready will be transformed forever. If you're a Scorpio, you've likely noticed how people come into your life and shortly after their lives shift. Sometimes dramatically, they leave relationships, change careers, start spiritual journeys. And they might never tell you this, but you were the catalyst. You didn't do it to them, you simply showed up as you are, and your presence carried truth strong enough to ignite their awakening. Life lesson, Scorpio, your presence is alchemy. You don't have to force anyone to change, your soul already carries the code. Trust the power of your energy. Let it do what it was designed to do, trigger transformation, awaken truth. And leave people better than you found them, even if it hurts. Gift 6, the sacred silence. There's a silence that's awkward, there's a silence that's peaceful, and then there's Scorpio's silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, it's alive, that doesn't avoid, it exposes. The kind of silence that can say more than 1,000 words ever could. Because one of the rarest gifts God gave Scorpio is this, the sacred silence. While most people rush to fill the void with noise, Scorpio retreats. They don't speak to be heard, they speak to be felt. And when they go quiet, it's never random, it's surgical. In Scorpio's silence, truth begins to tremble, secrets start unraveling, guilt surfaces, and facades begin to crack. They don't raise their voice when betrayed, they disappear. They don't argue with liars, they stare. They don't plead to be understood, they withdraw their energy. And that withdrawal is deafening. It's not a tantrum, it's not manipulation. It's a spiritual recalibration, a signal that says, this space is no longer safe for my soul. Let me tell you about Sierra, a Scorpio musician who discovered her best friend had been leaking her unreleased work to industry competitors. She didn't explode, she did confront. She simply sent one text, "Thank you for revealing yourself." Then came the silence. No responses, no energy given, no social media rants. And yet the guilt crushed her friend more than any rage ever could. That's what people don't understand. Scorpio doesn't need revenge. Their silence is the reckoning. Because when a Scorpio goes silent, the mirror turns inward. The other person starts to hear the things they've buried. They feel the consequences without having been punished. Because Scorpio's silence activates the conscience. And it's terrifying, but here's what makes this gift sacred. Scorpio uses silence not just to punish, but to protect their energy, to protect their peace. to protect their soul from being contaminated by lies, manipulation, or betrayal. They know the value of spiritual boundaries, and silence is their line in the sand. But there's another side to this gift, one that most people never realize. Scorpio's silence is also where their deepest wisdom emerges. They observe. They decode energy, they hear what's not being said, and in the stillness, they gather truth. This is how they remain 10 steps ahead, how they avoid traps, how they walk into rooms and already know who to trust without a word being spoken. So if you're a Scorpio who's been told you're too quiet, or you shut down too fast, know this: you're not shutting down, you're tuning in, and your silence is not emptiness, it's sacred intelligence. It's your soul doing what it was born to do: sense, discern, decide. Life lesson, Scorpio: don't ever apologize for your silence. It is your sword, it is your sanctuary, it is your superpower. Because when others make noise to hide the truth, you go silent to expose it, and in that silence, God speaks through you. Gift 7, the gift of hidden knowing. Some people learn through books, some learn through experience, but Scorpio, they just know. They know who to trust. They know when something's ending. They know when someone is lying, even when the words are perfectly rehearsed. And the truth is, they can't explain how. That's the final, most mystical gift God gave to Scorpio, the gift of hidden knowing. It's not intuition, that's just the beginning. This is deeper. It's like their soul carries codes from lifetimes past, messages etched into their bones before birth. It's knowledge that doesn't come from the mind, but from the void. In ancient mysticism, this gift was called gnosis, divine, unprovable knowledge only accessible to those who had walked through darkness and come out illuminated. That's Scorpio. They are the sign of the underworld, ruled by Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and secrets. And those secrets don't just belong to others. They belong to the universe. Let me tell you about Amari, a Scorpio from the deep south. She was the quiet one in her family, often dismissed as too serious or overly emotional. But every time someone was about to pass, she would feel it days before the doctor said a word. Every time someone in her circle was hiding something, she'd dream about it. Her parents told her to stop being dramatic. But then, one day, she woke up in tears and called her brother. She said, "Don't get on that road today." He ignored her. That afternoon, he was in a major car crash. He survived, but never again did he question her knowing. That's what makes this gift both holy and heavy. It's not always welcomed. People don't like what they can't explain. And often, Scorpios don't even want this gift. They would love to not feel everything, to not see so clearly, to not be haunted by what they know before it happens. But this is the burden of prophecy. You carry knowledge not meant for comfort, but for awakening. Scorpio doesn't brag about what they know. They don't need to prove it, because the truth always arrives, and when it does, Scorpio is already 3 steps ahead. This gift also makes them exceptional in spiritual work, therapy, energy healing, research, and even detective work. They can see connections where others see chaos. They feel when something is incomplete. They hear what isn't being said and often respond to what someone's soul is asking, not their words. But here's the key: this gift doesn't exist to make Scorpio special. It exists to make them a vessel for truth, a vessel for awakening, a vessel for light in a world full of shadows. And that's why Scorpio must learn to honor this gift, not suppress it, to trust what they know, to stop explaining themselves to those who don't understand energy, to stop doubting what their spirit is screaming, because what they know might be the very truth that sets someone free. Life lesson, Scorpio: your knowing is not madness, it's not imagination, it's not coincidence. It's memory from before this life began. You came here with truth in your blood and sight in your shadows. And when you trust that, You become unstoppable, closing the reason God gave you these gifts. So now you've seen them, the 7 sacred gifts that God, in His infinite wisdom, only entrusted to Scorpio. The power of inner resurrection, soul-level intuition, psychic magnetism, the endurance of the spiritual warrior, the transformational touch, the sacred silence, the gift of hidden knowing. These are not traits, these are not skills. These are divine assignments, etched into your soul like a spiritual contract before you were even born. Because Scorpio, you weren't made to live lightly. You weren't designed for the shallow end of life. You were born with depth, with fire, with truth that cuts through illusion. And yes, that comes with a cost. People misunderstand you, they project their fear onto you. They fall in love with your intensity, then run from the mirror you hold up. You may have spent years asking, why am I like this? Why do I feel everything so deeply? Why do I keep getting tested, betrayed, reborn? But now you know you were gifted, you were chosen, you were called. Not to be comfortable, but to be transformational. Not to blend in, but to awaken others. Not to play it safe, but to carry the fire that purifies everything it touches. So here's my question for you now. Which gift did you recognize most in yourself? Was it your silence, your endurance, your psychic pull? Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these divine gifts do you carry, and how has it shaped your life? And if you're watching this and you love someone who's a Scorpio, honor them. They may never say it out loud, but they are carrying spiritual weight most people couldn't survive for a day. And finally, if this message stirred something in your spirit, if you felt seen, if you felt called, then don't leave this channel without subscribing, because here on the path to Buddha wisdom, we don't just talk about astrology. We remember who we are at the soul level, and for Scorpio, that soul was forged in fire, silence, and truth. You are not too much, you are not broken, you are not misunderstood by accident. You are here to awaken the world, one resurrection at a time.